core values to valued culture. Here is your host, Will Scott, interviewing another CEO about leading culture in their company.
Welcome, listeners, to another Culture Czars interview where we talk to CEOs that care about corporate culture. And our guest today is one that really does care about his culture. It's going to be a great story. We call this series From Core Values to Valued Culture. And our purpose is to help CEOs create environments where people thrive, such that employees love where they work and have a purpose to why they work. My guest today is Dan Arriola, president of Inktel. Hello, Dan.
Will, great to be here. Big fan of the podcast and you're a dear friend. So I'm very excited and this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we start, please let us know who you are and what your company does.
Yeah, so president of Inktel. Inktel is a contact center solution company where we provide call center support, email, chat, social media, support for Fortune 1000 brands. Been in business for over 20 years. It's a company owned and operated by my brother and I, and we got locations throughout the country, and it's had a good go of it.
That sounds fantastic. So call centers are a part of that?
Yeah, so it's a call center business. We own and operate all of our call centers here in the U.S. And for the most part, more than likely, you've called one of our call centers for a variety of reasons, support, questions about your order, enroll in something, sales related.
Okay, give us some numbers. I mean, kind of how many agents do you have? You said seven centers.
By the end of this month, so we have 7 centers throughout the U.S., 6 here in Florida, 1 in Indianapolis. We work with leading brands. We have over 1,500 employees, or agents, I should say. We actually have more employees, and a diverse group of sort of portfolio of retail, education, CPG type of clients. So it's a really good mix and a diverse group of clients.
Well, that's excellent. And congratulations on your company and your success. It's been fun for me. I don't think I've known you 20 years. You said your business has been there 20 years, but I think I've probably known you for 16 or something like that. We met in the Entrepreneurs Organization. And I don't know, do you remember how we met even?
So it's crazy. So first of all, for your listeners, EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, it's just a great, if you're a small business owner,
yes,
no brainer.
Shout out to EO. Yes.
Shout out to EO. I've become a better business executive, but the relationships and the friendships, including being here today, all stem from that organization. But the funny thing is, I remember meeting you. We were at an EO during the day event, and I meet this interesting cat, which is, this guy who's got this interesting accent. I don't know if he's Scottish, if he's British, or whatever. When you're from the U.S., you get a bit confused. And then I find out he's African. And then later that night, we were invited to some party that you were at, and in walks in a guy with a black leather Kango backwards with a scarf around his neck dancing to Michael Jackson. And I thought to myself, this is one of the most interesting characters I've met. So yeah, we've had a lot of fun together.
Well, today you're going to be the most interesting character, Dan. We're definitely going to be about you. But yes, Michael Jackson, funnily enough, I remember I was on a business trip in Mumbai, and I went to a Michael Jackson concert in Mumbai, and can you believe the sort of
cool.
how weird that sort of clash of cultures might be? But of course they were huge fans, and the funny thing was I went to dinner afterwards with some Germans that I met at the concert, but we were in a Chinese restaurant. So I was with Germans in a Chinese restaurant listening to Michael Jackson in India. It was.
So I'm saying you're the most interesting man I know.
It was wild. Yeah, and they told me, the Germans. That's why I've always remembered, because I like these little human touches, and I bring a lot of that to my speaking and to my audiences. One of the things that they taught me is when you say cheers, you always look people in the eye. And until you do that, you'll notice a lot of people, when they say cheers, you look at the clash of the glasses. Everyone looks at the glasses. No, in Germany, they like to look, and maybe other cultures too, but I learned it from these guys, look somebody in the eye when your glasses clink, and make sure you look everybody around the table in the eye. And so it's a
Really?
nice, yeah, nice little connection. Yeah.
I like it. I
Yeah.
like it.
And now that we can't shake hands and hug, maybe that's one of the safer ways that we
There
can
you go.
actually acknowledge another human being across the dinner table. um, okay, so we're talking about culture today. Thank you for the introduction. It's really cool to remember how long we've actually watched each other's businesses grow and thrive. But I know culture is super important to you. Tell us, how did you get started with your culture journey, and what are some of the things that you did, and what have you learned from that?
Well, so our culture journey really started with, and again, it's just sort of an operating philosophy in the business. We didn't set out to be, the study the greatest call center businesses, right? We wanted to just study great companies and then take their best practices, right? So, whether it's, GE, their ongoing training of employees, or Starbucks, the way they hire, or whatever, and then take those best practices and put them into our business. And what we always found was these businesses that were successful for long periods of time always had these great cultures, right? And everybody had sort of a different flavor. So we knew that we needed to spend the time in just developing our culture. What do we want to be about? The kinds of people we want in our organization, what was important to us, and then just what was important to us as human beings, right? Some people don't really care if they want to be a good um, uh, community sort of partner, right? For us, it's important. Wherever we have a business, we want to reach out to the community and participate. That's just, one of the things that we do. So
Hmm.
that's where it sort of just stems from. And then I think through my journey through, EO, and then now I'm in YPO, is it helped foster what we were doing. And
Yeah, it's definitely part of the Kool-Aid, isn't it?
it's
In
part of the
EO and
Kool-Aid.
YPO
Absolutely.
is culture, and the kind of people we want to be with, and what we're trying to do in the world as an organization. And you asked a lot of questions there, Dan, about who do we want to be, and so on. And we end up having to put that into words, don't we? Which
Yeah.
is typically core values. But is that what came next for you?
Yeah, That's what came next for us, and our core values really go to the acronym of what's called STRIVE, right? Which is these were words that we sort of sat in a room for lots and lots of time, and we debated, we argued. There's so many words that define like great company. You think innovation, you think Apple, Google, whatever. So we started
Hmm.
to think like what's important to us, and STRIVE was the acronym, and it goes to service, tenacity, responsibility, integrity, versatility, and entrepreneurship. And I'll tackle each one. Service. We're in the service business, right? We're an outsourced service provider, but it's not only service to us; it's a service to our community, our partners, our clients, so on and so forth. Tenacity. I love this word because business is a contact sport, and you're going to get knocked down, and you better get back up. And if you don't have this grit, and grit's another word we use a lot around here, you're never going to get through things. And I definitely saw that, and we'll talk a little bit about it later, during this COVID thing with our team. Just this tenacity of like just not giving up, whatever crazy things thrown at you, we're going to get over it. Responsibility to our customers, so they trust us. We represent some of the best brands in the world. We're the front lines, and so we've got a responsibility to them, responsibility to our community, and responsibility to our teams. Integrity. Without it, I mean, you can't have a lasting business. So you've got to have a high level of integrity. Versatility, because business is constantly changing, and so you have to have people who are versatile, depending on whether you're going to go into a different line of business or a different vertical, or what recently happened. If you don't have a little bit of moxie and versatility, you're going to really struggle. And then entrepreneurship, that you're willing to take a little risk here and there, just to maybe explore some different opportunities. So those were core values that we have in our organization. We reward them regularly on a quarterly basis, and we have a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Before we talk about that, I just want to acknowledge that one of the things I talk about in my book, The Culture Fix, is how to take your core values and make them come alive, so they're memorable.
Yeah.
And one great way to do it is, as you have done, is to have an acronym. And the acronym actually sort of captures, doesn't it, what you're trying to do is a sort of a bootstrapping entrepreneurial company. You want to strive, but
Right.
you've got these behaviors that describe how you want to strive. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and it's easy to remember. Like people always go, well, your core values. Who remembers? If I walk out on the floor,
Yeah, no,
and here you would, I'm guarantee you that you're going to get a good response. You're going to be like, no, I know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing here. I know what this place is all about.
that's something exactly that I do with my clients. And often when I'm called in to help with culture, one of the first things I do, if they have existing core values, is I test them, and I just ask people, can they recall them? And most cases they can't. And another thing that I talk about in my book, which you just mentioned, is how impactful it can be to have a really great nomination and reward system. They can come across as cheesy. Some CEOs think they're cheesy, or I don't want to do that. It doesn't feel. But tell us about you, because you just embrace that, and it's working for you, right?
Yeah, so we take it very seriously. We do a quarterly, what we call the Strive Awards, and I'd welcome all your listeners to check us out. We broadcast it live on Facebook, and for each
That's awesome.
word, for each word, we nominate a couple of people. I think it's like 4 or 5 folks, and it's the reason why you nominate. So it's John, Sally, and Sally did this, and John did this, or whatever.
That story is really important, right?
The story is really important. The story's laid out once we award. First of all, we tell everybody why they were nominated, and then when we award it, we have a lot of fun with it. So it's all based on themes. We've done Game of Thrones, we've done Minions, we've done Toy Story, Fred Flintstone. I mean, you name it, and they come up and it's broadcasted through all 7 facilities, and people cheer, and it's a lot of fun. We dress up as the characters from these movies and shows and stuff like that. And we have a lot of fun with it, and people really enjoy it. But it's carried over in every facility. We have a big wall, and it's by quarter and what award you've won, and it's your picture up there, and it's really, really cool, and people have a lot of pride in it. And then we do other things. A winning employee of the year every year is a big deal here. This year we gave out a giant guitar because the person was a rock star, right? And then a couple weeks ago was Superhero Day, right? I don't know if you knew this, and we decided to nominate our own superhero. And he's our CTO, because the last 8 weeks he's really just been a superhero. So we built up a graphic, and we drew him like a Superman, and we posted all over social media. So those are some of the things you got to have fun with it. But it is important, because you can't just like hire a marketing firm to come up with all these cool phrases and stuff like that. But if nobody knows it, nobody embodies it, nobody lives it,
Exactly.
it's really nowhere. It falls flat on its face.
Exactly. Yes. So often in my work, I come across companies who they came up with a few words, they put the poster on the wall, but then they don't do anything more with it. And that's my whole thing is this. I believe there's this huge opportunity for people to go from simply having core values to truly having a valued culture. How do you do that? Well, one way you do that is by doing what you're doing to make sure the core values come alive. You said earlier that you believe I could walk out into one of your facilities and stop somebody and ask them what your 6 core values are. And they could tell me, partly because you've got the acronym, but also because every quarter they're hearing the stories which reinforce the behaviors, which establish the core values for you.
Rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
Rinse and repeat. And but you make it simple, and you own these words, right? Like there's a lot of great words. If you think, like I said, innovation, right? Apple or Google, and I love that word, but these are more words that fit us, right? And we own them, and they're easy to understand, and you get it. Like, this is what this place is about. This is the DNA. This is what sort of is promised to you kind of when you're in here, and this is what is expected.
But it is quite a bit of effort, Dan, that you're putting into it. Not a lot of cost. I mean, some costume rental and stuff, but some photos. Not a lot of cost, but you are putting some effort into it, aren't you? And I guess that would scare some people. Oh my God! Every quarter I got to take nominations. I got to do this and set it all up. But it's clearly been worthwhile to you. You're getting a return on that investment, a return on that cultural investment.
100%. It's met with great excitement. When it's not working, when people roll their eyes and they go, oh, I have to go to this. Here it's a competition, right? And it's a lot of goofiness. And so, we see the videos from all the facilities, and everybody's just in a room cheering and goofing around, and they'll have their rooms decorated, sometimes not as the actual theme, but they'll do their own goofiness. Like you got to have fun with it. You got to have fun.
Yeah, that's really cool. So clearly, I'm going to be interested in how you've been doing this in the recent period. This is 2020. We're
Yep.
suffering under COVID-19. We've had 8 weeks of home sheltering and so on. But before we talk about that, is there something else that you can share about your culture and how you've been meaningful about it? Do you bring it up in meetings? Do you talk about them when you're doing your town halls? You know, of course, you've got people nominating each other, but
Right.
anything else that you
Yeah,
think would be
I'll
good for
take it
us
a
to
step
hear
further.
about?
I'll take it a step further. Human capital upfront, right? So interviews, right? So the people we have a very tight, long, and tough interview process, and it's not because we're trying to be jerks. We're trying to get as many data points. We're trying to get people who fit this, right? So there are tons of really good candidates that will turn down. They've got the best degrees. They've got wonderful experience, and whatnot. But if we don't feel that they fit into some of these, we'll just pass. And I think it's spending that time. If I could give any, but you give lots of great advice to business owners, but like, just get really good at the human capital part about it. I mean, we have EO friends, and I was talking to one of them the other day, and he was very excited about the CFO that he hired, and I know the guy, and I said, well, how much time did you spend with your CFO? And he's like, no, I let HR do all the interviewing. And I went to lunch, and I know the guy, and I go, I know you at lunch. You're going to talk for 45 minutes, and then you're going to let this person speak for 15, and then you're just going to size them up. If you like them, they're hired.
Yeah, gut feel.
Yeah, right. But I'm like, you're trusting this person as the CFO of your company with, as important stuff, and you're not really getting to know them. And anybody can put together a good 30, 40-minute pitch, right? It's like a stand-up comic, right? You put up a couple funny minutes, whatever. But I want to see you 4 or 5 hours in. I want to see you, cross-check interview where every interviewee is taking a different role, that we're not asking all the same questions. And then I want you on that scorecard, see how they fill out your core values, right? Are they entrepreneurial? Are they, for us, integrity, versatility, and all that kind of stuff. And then, you sort of combine it because you can't build a great company without great people. There's a reason why there's no surprise why the same great basketball teams always win. The Bulls were great. I'm sure Phil Jackson's a great coach, but he had Michael Jordan. And the Lakers won a lot of championships because they had Kobe and Shaq. And the Golden State Warriors had, Curry. So, like, you need good players on the team. Might as well spend the time getting to know these people and get just really good at the human capital. How do you attract? How do you retain people? And then they help sort of with that culture. They help it so that you're not always, hammering it away because you can't be at all places all the time.
Yeah, I agree. That's so well said. And the hiring process and hiring for cultural fit is so important. And a lot of people do just say, "Oh yeah, I always hire for culture," and I like to say, "Great, how do you do that?" And usually it's like you said, it's that gut feel,
Gut feel, yeah.
But there are ways, aren't there? And those stories that you're getting told in your quarterlies, those are great examples of how people do exhibit the core values. So when you're interviewing, you can use those as kind of a way to test folks and really see what are their values and how would they bring those to Inktel, for example.
Absolutely, yeah, and
yeah,
it's critical. It's critical.
Yeah. So look, we're all dying to hear. I mean, now what? I mean, what happened? I think middle of March, we all were told to stay home. I think even in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the impact been on your business? And have you had to do a pivot? Tell us.
If there was ever a time that culture was more important, was right now. Just like many businesses, it was the unknown. 8-9 weeks ago. We really thought that we were just going to shut down and not knowing when we were going to open back up. And the reason is all of our call centers are within our 4 walls, right? We own and operate the facilities. We have never done an at-home agent model, but we had to get going, right? If not, we were going to get zero revenue. And so I said, well, let's roll the dice. And you know what? We're going to make mistakes. We communicate with our clients. Thank God we have wonderful clients. We said, look, we're going to do this for you. We're going to hold hands here. There's going to probably be some bumps in the road, but we're going to try to make it happen. Well, within 48 hours, think about this. We deployed 633 agents to their homes with our PCs. Instruction manuals. We put together a video of like how to set up. to the best that we could, because some of the facilities we had to start shutting down and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And knock on wood, it went really, really well. It went much better. It exceeded my expectations. Lots of long nights. Our IT team busted their hump. That's why we, it called our CTO a rock star. A superhero. Our client service team, our ops team, coming up with SOPs on the fly. I mean, the amount of teamwork, tenacity, toughness, versatility, all the words that I want out of the core of this company really, really shined. In the process, because we service a lot of retailers, those retailers, a lot of their stores are closed. So the only channel that they have is the web and e-commerce and stuff like that. So in that process, our volume went up big time. So we went from 633 agents deployed, okay, to by the end of this month, we'll have 1,500 agents working from their home, which is like incredible. We've never even provided these services. And now we've got, pretty much our entire workforce working from home. That doesn't happen without this culture, the kinds of people we brought on, some of the decisions we made, in the last couple of months with the people that we brought on. That, by the way, those folks brought in some really great processes. They made some wonderful recommendations, not knowing that this was going to happen. We tried this a year or two ago. I don't know how successful we're going to be, but I think we made the right moves, and it really goes back to company culture.
Yeah, fascinating. So literally, you said 600 plus folks were getting their desktop or their PC from the office and setting up at home with it.
Yeah.
And you say you hardly missed a beat with that. It's a pretty major transition.
If I told you that our attendance was better, would you believe it? Attendance was better.
Yes.
It's crazy. Good quality scores. And I couldn't be happier. Knock on wood. Everybody really did a great job.
Yeah, and have the customers had to be a bit more maybe understanding or sympathetic or something in terms of people being from home, maybe an interruption, a kid walks in. I don't know. How does that work doing that call support from home?
They've been able to manage. We've got great clients. They've been super understanding, but we've also performed, right? So when you're performing, it's it is what it is. You're going to have sort of some of these challenges and issues, with daycare and school's been closed, but overall we've got great partners and they've been so supportive, and we're very fortunate to have them. Yeah,
and I think you said you got a lot of retail customers who actually increased their business with you during this period.
Increased business, data that they've shown, new customers who have joined or who have signed up to buy from them. I mean, like, just really interesting things that have come from it. Some of the data I can't share, but I mean, look, they don't have they have 0 retail locations nationwide open, right, during this period. Right. So the only place that you can buy, and there's still Mother's Days going on, and birthdays, and obviously graduations and stuff like that, and they still need to shop, and they still want to shop, and the only channel is e-commerce, and we're the front lines of that because they're picking up the phone, checking on an order, or they have a question. Yeah, helping them out. Yeah.
Excellent. Good for you. Wow, what a story. And you're saying that you don't believe you could have made that smoothly if people weren't striving and having core values like, responsibility.
You can't do that without tenacity. You can't do that without being entrepreneurial. You can't, without being responsible. I mean, like, forget it. It's just not going to work.
Yeah. And have you had a quarterly event yet where you have nominations for the core values? Has that happened during this time when people have been at home?
No, we have not. So we will have one coming up, and it's mostly just been around logistics because so now we've started to bring people back into our offices, but we will have it, and I'll invite you and all your guests.
Okay, please, yes, and I'm gonna watch your Facebook Live event sometime too.
Yeah, it's very, and I think I have some recorded ones. If you go to our Facebook page, Inktel, you'll see it. It's really cool.
Okay. So people are coming back to the office. I was wondering what you were going to do about that. Do you think so people are coming back. What do you think about people working from home versus working in the call center?
So it's a mixed bag. So first of all, some people cannot come back because of schools, because of daycare. Yeah. Some of our community, they work. They have a member in the family who's got health issues or elderly or whatever, and we're being very flexible, right? If you fall into one of these categories, or you don't feel safe coming back, but we have all kinds of we have an oximeter. So check your oxygen level. We take temperatures. We have everybody social distance as far as spread out. We doubled the cleaning as far as the amount of people. Our landlords have actually been great. Our landlords have between signage and the amount of cleaning they have going on. So I feel very, very comfortable. It's a process. Working from home. Personally, I'm not the kind of guy that likes to work from home. I like being around people and my teams. But it works for some people. It's going to be part of the mix. What does that look like in the future? I really don't know. I mean, this is all sort of new and fluid.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. So thinking specifically about culture, was the culture different while people were at home? I mean, maybe it's a different feeling in the office, of course, but the culture, I guess, was still maintained, you're saying.
Yeah, so we made an effort to do it. We had, the traditional Zoom happy hours that everybody was having. We had a lot of goofy contests. So we had one guy who is in great shape and very into fitness, sent daily workouts we use Microsoft Teams, daily workouts for everybody. We, right now on Instagram, it should be up today or tomorrow, we have a contest of your home office decor. What does your home office look like?
Right.
So, keeping those sort of goofy things. But the reality is it was funny because we were having this discussion about company culture and like everybody being remote. I do think you lose something. Like there is something to water cooler talk. There is something to you and I going to lunch every other day. Like one of the interview questions that I ask myself when I'm ever interviewing somebody, I say, who's going to be this person's friend at work? Because I think having friends at work, you're more likely to stick it out, right? You go and look, work, it's tough, right? You can have good days, you can have bad days. But if you have 2 or 3 friends you just really enjoy being around, it's going to make your time at this company a lot better. And you're going to grow and develop and give it the extra yard. I mean, I know that's how I am. When I'm with teammates that I really enjoy being around, I'm going to give it a little extra effort, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yes, a lot of the people.
I don't know.
Yeah, so a lot of the folks that I've been interviewing, because I've been hired to sort of keep a pulse on some of these company cultures with everyone working from home. Yeah. And, some people are, I would say, mostly people actually are now thinking, gosh, I would really like it if I could have a little bit of home working and a little bit of office time.
Right.
Could I have 2 days a week at home where I don't have to do a commute and I can work those extra hours even, but I can certainly not do a commute and just be at home. But I don't want that all the time.
Right.
I definitely like being with people some of the time. I like the energy. I want to interact and get questions. So can I go to the office 3 days a week? So I think there is going to be, that's kind of a theme that I'm hearing from folks is, it's not all bad being at home, but I don't want to do it all the time. So any thoughts about that?
I think that's where it ends up settling. And plus with if you've got kids, having a little bit of flexibility, helps families out. My best guess is that it will settle somewhere in there where you're working 3 or 4 days a week in the office and then, a day or two at home. And I think it's okay. The technology and the tools are all there.
Yeah, and if you're a young person, single, living in a condo around the corner from the office, you're probably going to go to the office where you can learn most and get out of your condo. But if you're a family person with a couple of kids, maybe a couple of days a week, it just does relieve their pressures and so on. Yeah, I think that's cool. It's going to be one of the changes I think that we'll see.
Absolutely.
Dan, I also expect that because I've seen people at home, I expect that there's going to be some other changes when we come to the office. I think people might be more casual because, you saw me with my hair disheveled, couldn't do my nails like I usually do.
Yeah.
So maybe a little bit more casual about the way people dress in the office. I think it's even more casual about when people show up and leave.
Yes.
I just think because we now see, people can work from home and they can work with a kid, tugging on their sleeve a couple of times a day. And and then there's the whole question about how are you going to, you said you're maintaining some social distancing right now. I guess you don't know yet though, what that looks like as you go forward.
Right. So we have to reevaluate what does our real estate needs look like in the future.
Yeah, right.
The portfolio of clients and agents that we'll have working from home. So from here to the end of the year, we are going to have a piece of our employee base working from home because let's say the second wave comes or whatever. I'd rather not deploy from scratch, right?
Right.
So, and again, as long as schools are out, everybody has this problem, right?
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
on. So I don't know what that looks like, but I was thinking even ahead, like I think that some of the states, whether it's New York or cold weather, even Illinois and Texas might be a little high. You start to say, hey, if I can work virtual, why not I just move my company to Florida, Texas, Arizona, where a little bit more business friendly, tax base lower, weather's a much better, cost of living's a little cheaper. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it could be a big win for those states. By the way,
Yeah.
I'm in Florida right now. I just moved. As
Yeah.
I say that.
Yes, and for sure, I think landlords and a lot of property owners are thinking about must be wondering, gosh, are my customers going to come back and all this, or am I going to have a lot of empty office space,
Yeah.
or at least some? Yeah, so definitely some changes to come there. Yeah, okay. Well, you've got a fascinating story for your business, a fascinating story around culture and how you've maintained it, and clearly you're having fun with it too.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I like to say and posted about recently was, of all the things you could invest in, because you can invest in new products, new markets, which are cost money and are risky,
Yeah.
or investing in your culture, which is really an investment in your people, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can have this, it's low cost. I mean, you've already said it's really low cost invest in culture, but the returns are pretty massive. And
Yeah.
you've also showed that you're having fun doing it. But what about the return part of the ROI calculation there, or the return on culture calculation there? Um, Hard to quantify, but the return for you by your investment in culture,
Yeah.
what would you say?
I mean, so I'll give you a real sort of one that I use in the back of my napkin, and it helped. Referrals, right? So people referrals. So we're in the people business. Human capital to me is extremely important. It goes hand
Hmm.
in hand with culture, right? If I develop a bad culture, there's no way people are going to want to work here.
Yeah.
The amount of people that, so now the job market is crazy, right? The amount of people that from our own internal employee base, and this is actually even before, that have referred people to come work here. You're not going to refer somebody to come work at a company if you think it's a rotten place, right?
Right.
So I
Right.
take an enormous amount of pride, because usually when somebody says that, it's reassurance that that colleague of ours is pretty happy here, right? He's not going to tell his friend or business associate to come join our team if they're unhappy. That's a one for a barometer for me. That's always like, wow, like you think enough of this place that you're going to trust their their livelihood, their career to come and join the team. And it's mostly like they're like, no, man, I want to make this place just better. I want to make the team better, and this is the person that can help us get there.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and any last final thoughts that you can leave for our listeners?
First of all, yeah, it's real simple. I'm very proud of you. We've been friends for a long time. I think what you're doing is awesome. I'm a big fan of the podcast. I don't know, like I said, most people don't know that you're a terrific dancer. But no, I mean, honestly, I love what you're doing. I think it's great. It can help a lot of people. Culture is something that, what I've seen from a lot of people, it takes a lot of discipline. Discipline's tough, but like they go on their corporate retreat, they come back, rah, rah, rah. 6 weeks later, they forgot everything, and they're back in. As the leader of the business, you got to just continue, rinse and repeat, and do all these little rituals and some of the goofy stuff, because I think what the media and what all these best places to work places get wrong is they focus on sort of the features and not the benefits. Meaning, oh, they have the sushi bar and
Yeah.
they got a barista and all this stuff. They get it totally wrong. It's actually the essence of what's really going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they do that all wrong, right? They mess that up, and you see it all the time by all these wonderful companies, and then years later they're out of business, or there was look at WeWork. Wasn't that the coolest company 4 years ago? And they had a pretty rotten culture, and we know some of the other companies. It's just
Yes.
folks
No,
who
I've
are,
got in my blog actually. There's all kinds of stories where I've written about corporations who didn't pay attention to culture, or said, and in a lot of cases said one thing. They said this is
right.
our culture, but they were doing something completely different,
Yeah.
not acting in concert with that at all. People like Boeing around safety, people like
Right.
Uber around equality, and so on.
Right.
But clearly at Inktel, you are not only saying what you're doing, you're describing your culture around the strive, but you're actually doing it too. You're actually doing it. And when a crisis hits, look at you, you're able to not only avoid a downturn, but you actually turn it into something positive, and you actually increased your business. So congratulations, Dan. It's been awesome to catch up with you around culture, and really looking forward to bringing this podcast live and to my listeners.
All right, my man. Thank you for having me. I had a blast.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to click subscribe, check us out on the web at culturezars.com, and we'll see you next time.